When I reach 1000 subscribers I will be giving away a $25 Amazon gift card away. To enter, like, subscribe and leave a comment below. Posted by u/skidmarksmelabum. Bully boss gets owned. Repost. Had to repost as it was removed due to me stupidly using acronyms. Wasn't sure, so I also use the full titles instead of the government acronyms as well, like depth of transportation and 450 commercial driver's license. Hello. I have been enjoying the ProRevenge, nuclear revenge, entitled Parents, Malicious Compliance and I Don't Work Here vids on YouTube, and they just brought back all kinds of memories, so I thought I would post a few. This one took place back in 2002. I had been an over-the-road truck driver and engaged for a year. I thought I would try to get a local job so I could be home every night with my soon-to-be wife. The wedding was only a few months away. She lived in a pretty small town. There wasn't much in the way of local truck driving jobs except for oil field or hauling dirt. I did find a dirt hauling company that was hiring. The supervisor was a prick from the very beginning of the interview. He informed me that pay was $9/HR, and that's it. No raises, no benefits, even if you work there for over 20 years. Well, I decided to just go on and accept it, as I knew that after we got married, my wife would be moving back to her hometown to accept a job, and there were plenty of driving jobs there. My first day of work, the super prick has me fill out the paperwork and tries to force me to sign a waiver to decline workers' compensation should I get injured. He promised their insurance was far better, but I had already learned about many of those scams and refused to sign it. This utterly pissed him off. Telltale sign that they are trying to screw you. So, I have to train with another driver for a week before getting assigned to my own truck, which is good, so I can learn the routes and roads. I hear him tell the trainer to nitpick everything as he doesn't want me on the crew. Unfortunately for him, everything I do is to perfection. The only complaint the trainer had was I tended to ride the clutch a little hard when taking off on the first day. Was trying to get used to the extra heavy loads and very sensitive clutch. Otherwise, I floated gears like a 50 years pro vet. So, I finish the week and get assigned my own truck. I do my pre-trip safety inspection as required by regulations, and I notice one of the steer tires is almost illegal wear. Cast of characters: bossman, boss, or supervisor, super prick, trainer, my trainer, me, engaged not so easy to push over dude, me, hey boss, unit 12 left steer is almost to regs. It's at 5/16 inches. Bossman, sounds to me like you just don't want to work. Me, no, it's legal for now, just informing you that it's going to need to be replaced real soon. Bossman, are you fooing stupid? I just replaced both of those steers 2 months ago. Now get in the truck, or clock out and go home. Me, I will drive it until it is illegal or unsafe to do so. But if I get fined, I have enough witnesses here, right now, to put it back on you. I got in the truck and went to work. Bossman was peeved. But 2 days later, I noticed a new set of steer tires during my daily inspection. The next week, Bossman informs me that we are on nights for the next few days. Bossman, when on the ranch land, watch your speed. If you hit and kill one of the landowner's $45 prize winning steers that he makes $20,000 when breeding, I'll run your ass off and you lose your pay. I bust out laughing hard. This pisses him off. Bossman, what the foo you laughing at? You don't think I'm serious? Get your shit and get out. Me, is that what the landowner told you? He breeds his prize winning steer for $20K a pop, and you believe him? Bossman, yeah. I was nearly on the ground laughing so hard. Bossman, the foo is your problem. Fine, go home. Me, sorry, I meant no disrespect. It's just that, I imagine that you're from up north, right? From the city? I could tell from day one from his fake southern accent, but I kept quiet about it. Bossman, yeah, what of it? Me, well, I'm a city boy as well, but even I know that a steer is a castrated bull. While it's true that a prize-winning steer can be worth tens of thousands of dollars, they cannot be bred. Ask anyone here, they'll confirm it. Trainer, yes sir, it's true. A steer is a bull with no balls. My trainer just happened to walk by when he heard me laughing so hard. Boss turned white. Don't matter. Watch your speed or you're down the road. The second week ends and the third begins. About the third day, another truck breaks down. So the bossman decides to have me give my truck to the other driver and ride with my trainer again. For some reason, bossman decides he wants this to be my last day, but he can't due to no reason. So, he makes something up, only to have it backfire on him. At the end of the day, he's waiting for us at the yard when we pull in and get parked. I head to the office to get my check for the first 2 weeks, and he's waiting for me outside. Bossman, you done effed up today, boy. You almost got someone killed. Me, really? Please, do tell. Bossman, I received a call from a man who said that you cut him off and ran him off the road. He gave your truck and trailer numbers and identified you as the driver by the cap that you wear. Me, I smiled. Really? About what time did this incident happen? Bossman, why are you smiling? You nearly killed a man. I'm letting you go right now. You're an unsafe driver. Me, no. First you need to answer my question. Bossman, what does it matter? I don't have to answer you. You're fired. Me, no. You do need to answer. Remember, there were 2 drivers in that truck today. Just then trainer walked up. And FYI, I know that I didn't cut off anyone today, as I did not drive at all. I can also vouch that trainer did not cut anyone off, nor ran anyone off of the road. So either 1. The guy misread the numbers of the truck and trailer and identity of the driver. 2. Is lying. Or 3. You're the one lying, because you have been trying to find fault in everything I do, and run me off, since day 1, when I refused to sign the waiver for workman's comp. Bossman, foo, you little foo. Trainer, he's right. I drove all day, and don't recall any incidents or near misses. You know I'd have called as per policy. Bossman, well, alright. I guess you still have your job. But no, I'm keeping a real close eye on you. Me, thank you, and I don't doubt it. My butthole has already been feeling your nose hairs tickling it since day 1. I opened my check and looked at it as Bossman began to walk away fuming. Me, wait a minute. There's a $59 deduction on here for insurance. We don't have benefits, remember? Bossman, that's for the insurance against injury, remember? Me, you mean the one I declined and refused to waive the workers' comp for? Bossman, yeah. It's mandatory. Me, I see. So it's deducted, whether I sign up for it or not. Bossman, yep. Don't like it? Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Me, that's illegal. Bossman, no it ain't. Now get the foo off my property. I decided to end it right there, as there is no point in arguing with a spoiled child. It's best to be the better man and walk off. Yeah, right. Now for the ProRevenge. It turns out that the captain for the TX Department of Public Safety, Department of Transportation for you truck drivers, or state trooper for everyone else, of the precinct just happened to live about 4 houses down from the apartments that my fiance lived. He just so happened to find an anonymous note on his windshield the next morning. The very next morning, there were 5 state troopers with all 15 of the company's trucks pulled over on the side of the highway right in front of the company, being thoroughly inspected. I was parked on the shoulder in my car across the highway watching it all unfold, while sipping my coffee. Of the 15 trucks, 11 of them were shut down for safety violations. Thousands of dollars in fines were written, and the boss plus 2 other drivers were taken to jail for warrants. Boss also had an expired commercial driver's license. He was forced to drive, since I didn't show up for work that morning. As you can imagine, Bossman lost his job. I had moved to my fiance's hometown, and got a job in the oil field driving tanker trucks. I heard that trainer got the Bossman's job, and everyone lived happily ever after. Well, maybe not Bossman, as he also popped positive on a drug test. Posted by u/Aspinonymous. A revenge trifecta unfolds from a single phone call. This happened almost 20 years ago, so some of the laws, punishable offenses and punishments have been changed since then, and some of the details may be lost for all eternity. Doctor at the bottom. Some background. I grew up very sheltered and had no idea how the world works. I also didn't realize my family life wasn't normal. This is partly because I was on the spectrum, but wasn't diagnosed until in my late 30s, and partly because I grew up with abusive and religious parents. However, it was nowhere nearly as bad as some of the stories on here. I was mentally, emotionally, verbally abused by my father, who is a classic narcissist. He didn't physically abuse me, but the threats he made indicating he would was enough for young naive me to be terrified of him. My parents strictly taught us that we must wait until marriage to be intimate with our spouses. My parents told me I didn't matter, nor did I deserve anything better than what I had. I was always an afterthought. Young me believed everything they taught me. My escape. While in high school, I was extremely awkward and unable to make friends due to my lack of social skills. My dad forbid me from working to earn money, so I was trapped living with them. When I turned 18, I got my first job working as a host at a popular restaurant chain. I started to make a few friends and the happiness and joy my family had managed to obliterate began to slowly return, and I started to gain confidence and pride in myself. While working there, I was introduced to a cute guy who worked in the catering department. We flirted and eventually started dating. His family was so nice, and I was in a little bit of a culture shock. I remember realizing how terrible my family is. After many months, he started getting frustrated with me because I wouldn't be intimate with him. Red flag. Flapping violently in the tempestuous wind. I explained that the only way I'd sleep with him was if we were married. I was desperate to get out of my parents' house, and he was desperate for sex. So for clearly all the right reasons, we spontaneously drove to Vegas and got married. Our families were obviously surprised, but his family was supportive and helped us get an apartment. I grew close to his family and we all had a great relationship. Things were going great for a few years and my husband was a senior manager in a local restaurant and bar which was very successful. I was making more friends with our employees and Dell was so much happier. We moved to an apartment complex that most of the employees lived at, so we all got together to hang out and have BBQs. I hired my younger brother to be a host and none of the employees knew that their new host was my brother. I no longer had my maiden name. They gossiped and made fun of me to him, and I discovered that the employees resented and hated me for being a lazy trophy wife. We were successful enough that I didn't have to work, but I managed a floral shop and loved my job. They didn't know this because I went to work when they were going to bed. The day that changed everything. 3 years in, I met up with some friends at our bar on the 4th of July. We had dinner, and I had one drink at this point, when my friends had to go take their kids from the babysitter over to their parents. They said they'd be back in an hour. I went up to the bar to get another whiskey, and about 5 minutes later I'm starting to feel woozy. I luckily don't remember what happened in the next few hours, but I found out that a couple guys led me off the property and the manager at the door let them. Several hours later my brother found me in the alley behind the restaurant and went to get my husband. I vaguely remember him loading me up into his truck and he took me home, put me in bed, and went back to work. The next morning I told him what happened, and he called me a liar and said I just got wasted. I felt crushed by the lack of support and his apathy. I took myself to the emergency room to have the tests done, and then to the police station to file a report for kidnapping and sexual assault. The owners and managers brushed the evidence aside, insisting that I just got hammered on a holiday. However, because I'm claiming that this happened on the restaurant's property, I wasn't allowed to come here in case it happened again. I was furious. So they said I was too drunk, but they're worried I'll be drugged and assaulted again. Nope, sorry, folks. Y'all can't have it both ways. The beginning of the end. This is where things start to go downhill. For almost a year I didn't see my husband. He'd crash at a friend's house after work and only come home after I left for work. He'd be gone for work when I got home. When I did see him, he was extremely verbally abusive, and due to his large stature versus my tiny frame, the fact he'd previously thrown my 8-week-old puppy against the wall during his rage, I was legitimately scared of him hurting me badly. Slowly all the friends I'd made had dropped me and sided with him. I had no one to talk to except my boss at the floral shop. Well, his birthday rolled around, and after the restaurant closed, and there were only staff present, I decided to go wish him a happy birthday and beg him to try to work on things and possible therapy. Well, he was irate that I was there and picked me up by one of my arms, physically threw me out the front door of the building, and I told me to go find someone else to put up with my shit. And so I did. By morning I had loaded all my clothes and a few of my belongings into my car and went to my parents' house. I told them everything and cried to my family about the sexual assault, the abuse, and how my husband basically kicked me out of the house and I had nowhere to go. My dad proceeded to tell me that the sexual assault was my fault for dressing like a **king slut and being at the bar in the first place. I was wearing a blouse and jeans. I was asking for it. Then he told me that if I had just obeyed my husband and done what he wanted, I wouldn't have ruined my marriage and brought disgrace upon our family. To say that hearing this from my father was heartbreaking would be an understatement. My mother stepped in and said that I could stay with them for the time being. My captors. Now what I haven't shared is that my husband and his family are from a different country. His parents moved to the US when their kids were really young, and they've lived here for most of their lives. His father had been approved for a work visa every year, and it was costing them $5,000 a pop. When his kids turned 18, they would need to apply for either a student or a work visa themselves to remain here legally. My husband and I married for love, so no violation there, but if I divorced him at that time, without the special exception I was unwilling to provide, he would lose his green card and be deported, causing him to have to start over and apply for a work visa on his own. I was then contacted by my husband's father, who threatened me with violence if I divorced his son before he had been naturalized as a United States citizen. They desperately wanted to get a cheaper, more permanent status, and they saw me as their golden ticket. He also said I'd never get any of our assets in the divorce if I didn't comply. See, they were counting on my husband to sponsor their family to be able to apply for green cards. This bastard wanted me to wait 2 years to divorce his ashat of a son. In hindsight, I wish I ignored him, and that was the revenge I enacted, but I was seriously scared of these people, and keep in mind I was dependent on my own family for shelter, and I'm on the spectrum, so some things aren't as obvious to me as they are to others. My limit is reached. Time went on and things deteriorated. The stress, manipulation, and blackmail was seriously messing with my mental health. My brother-in-law, Mike, is my husband's best friend, and he moved into our house. Mike is also my dad's only employee and a vital one at that. We had previously had a good relationship, but now every time I showed up at my father's shop to borrow some tools, Mike would smugly ask me in the most foul way how my divorce was going. Had I found a new man to torment, or something along those lines. I hit my boiling point when I learned my father is still friends with my abusive husband and lets him come build projects at his shop on the weekends. I felt helpless in this situation. However, whenever I came around, I'd hear little pieces of information and a plan started formulating in my head. I found a way to get my revenge on all 3 of these despicable men. Fact gathering. I learned that my husband had already made sure I'd never get any of our assets. I learned that my husband needed Mike to live there in order to help pay for our house. I learned how close the 2 of them really are once I was out of the picture. Attached at the hip. I learned that Mike has for the last 8 years not applied for nor received a work visa, so he's here illegally. I learned that my dad can't do a lot of the heavy lifting at work due to an injury he acquired a couple years ago, which is why Mike's employment is so important. I learned that my dad filed Mike as an independent contractor, and I highly doubted he'd paid any taxes for 8 years. I learned that their grandfather is dying, and Mike and my husband want to go back to their home country to say goodbye. I learned Mike and my husband are going to fly up there, but are going to rent a car and drive across the border to attempt entry for Mike on a tourist visa. I learned what border crossing they are going to use. The revenge. I called Homeland Security and made an anonymous report about an undocumented alien who has been living illegally in the US for 8 years. In order for them to verify this claim to be valid, I gave them Mike's birthday, a description of his appearance, home address, make, model and license plate number of his car, cell phone number, and work address. I told them I know he is going to go to his home country to visit family in the next week or so. Mike is going to attempt to cross the border back into the US by car at specific border crossing as a tourist with the intention of going back to live and work here illegally. He is working as an independent contractor as a 1099 and probably hasn't paid his taxes for 8 years. Then I called the eyes and gave them essentially the same information. The aftermath. I heard from my dad that he was indeed stopped in a vehicle at the border crossing and detained. My husband watched his best friend and brother dragged away in handcuffs. Okay, I might be elaborating that small part, but the possible image of that in my mind makes me smile. Mike ended up being deported and can't return to the US for 10 years, so he's cut off from his family. The eyes is probably going after him for back taxes. My father's business took a bit of a hit as he had to find and train a new employee. His profession is in construction and talent is hard to come by. I'd know because I'm in the same industry. My husband didn't have too difficult of a time finding another roommate, but he sure as sh*t wasn't his brother/best friend. And later on in the naturalization interview I made sure my answers to all questions were as unhelpful as possible. I do know I threw up some red flags and delayed the process a bit, but I don't know how it turned out for him. I've had no contact with him since, and I plan to keep it that way. Edit. I manage a construction company and am not a florist any longer. Edit 2. I was reminded by a user of one of the hardest calls I ever received. The detective who was in charge of my rape case called me to say that the statute of limitations was up and they had to close my case. Shortly after, my brother informed me he had forgotten, it wasn't on purpose, that one of the bartenders admitted that she drugged my drink. He didn't believe her, but I knew her and I do. It's too late to do anything about it now. She did come into a bar I was bartending at. She was flirting with a guy way out of her league. I could see the panic on her face. To not ruin this for her, I promptly accidentally and apologetically spilled an entire tray of lemon drop shots and mugs filled with Newcastle all over her fake tits. Edit 3. Holy Zeus. Silver? Thank you. Edit 4. So a comment got me curious. Mike is back in my area and I'm trying to think of ways to casually run into him to let him know I'm the absolute reason for all that transpired. TL. Dr. My despicable father and Poe's husband made my life unimaginably miserable, so I deported my dad's employee/husband's best friend/brother. When I reach 1,000 subscribers I will be giving away a $25 Amazon gift card away. To enter, like, subscribe and leave a comment below.